Shabbat Shalom. This week, we begin the most epic battle of sibling rivalry. Vayeshev starts the tale of Joseph and his brothers. We hear about Jacob's favoritism towards Joseph and the brothers' jealousy. The text recounts the dreams that Joseph had and how his brothers are pushed to their brink by hearing these dreams. Do you ever wonder if the brothers would have been more receptive to hearing about the dreams if they had come from someone other than Joseph? Joseph was, after all, his father's favorite son, and he was given special treatment. He got unique gifts and extra attention. And not every interpretation of Joseph leads us to believe that he was a warm and helpful person. The other brothers resented him. So whatever he shared with his brothers was likely met with more resentment and disregard. But if Reuben or Asher had shared a dream like Joseph had with the other brothers, maybe they wouldn't have been quite so annoyed by it. Maybe because these brothers were one of the group and well-liked, the band of brothers would have sat together and discussed the dreams. They would have debated their meaning and analyzed their message. Why would this brother rise to power over others? What makes this one among the 12 so significant? If they had listened, rather than rising up, maybe they would have heard the rest of the dreams as well. They might have learned that a famine was in their future. They might have begun storing grain and wouldn't have needed to make the risky trip to Egypt. Had they thought about the dreams, focused on the message rather than the messenger, their story would have had less heartache and trouble. If they hadn't been distracted by their dislike for their brother, they could have determined their own future rather than putting their future in the hands of others. Often we exclaim, "Don't shoot the messenger," because the message is problematic. But in this case, the problem was not the message, but the messenger himself. This week, our president declared a major shift in American foreign policy. He has stated that we will embrace Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, and we will, over the course of the next few years, move our embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. President Trump stated in his speech on Wednesday, "This is nothing more than a recognition of reality." And he's right about that. Israelis have long considered their capital to be Jerusalem, and many Jews throughout the world believe this as well. The president argued that Israel is a sovereign nation with the right to determine its own capital. And he clearly stated that he believes this is in the best interest of the United States, Israel, and the Palestinians, and a step that he believes will advance the peace process. Many tried to stop our president from making a statement that they believe is inflammatory and comes without serious consideration of the consequences. The international community worries that this makes the United States a biased mediator in the peace process. Many worry that this action by President Trump will actually be counterproductive to the next steps in the peace process. And we must be honest that many of us are worried about violent responses and if this will endanger the lives of Israeli citizens. But we don't really know the ramifications or even the realities of this decision just yet, as it will take years to move the embassy, and things in the Middle East are still unfolding. Organizations and leaders throughout the reform movement put out releases that they agree with Trump's statement that Jerusalem is the capital and that they don't need the United States government to assure them of this truth. They too worry about the ramifications of this statement and the timing of it. It's not that they disagree with the ideology, but rather that they are uncomfortable with the actual action. But I wonder, what if this message and its action had a different messenger? If, for example, Barack Obama had stood before the world and declared that the United States would recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, would we all have been so concerned about the timing or the implications? Would we have felt that this was a well-thought-out decision and thus deserved our patience to see how it played out? Would leaders of our liberal Jewish organizations have stood up and cheered because they had a more positive view of Obama and trusted him more? I worry that we are acting like Joseph's brothers and letting our thoughts about the messenger color our thoughts about the message. Is it possible that we are letting the messenger ruin the message? We often prejudge a statement based upon the messenger. If we consider a person to be part of our team, our alliance, our likeness, we are willing to hear what they have to say. We give these people the benefit of the doubt because we believe they are more like us. If they have similar values and ethics, we are comfortable with the way that they must have made the decision. And since they are like us, their message is more likely to appeal to us. When you like your rabbi, for example, you're more willing to listen carefully to their sermon. And the opposite is true as well. We hear something from someone we don't like, don't trust, whose opinion and character we don't value, and we immediately assume them to be wrong. We find a flaw in what they are trying to tell us because we don't want them to be right. Teenagers are a perfect example of this. How many teenagers want to listen to their parents? How many teenagers rebel against their parents' advice because they simply don't want their parents to be right? The message is tainted. The messenger is tainted, and so at best, it is cast aside, and at worst, the message becomes invalidated. For his brothers, Joseph's role as messenger was overshadowed by the favoritism he received from their father, by his often lazy role in working the fields, and by his attitude. He didn't fit in with the group, and no one wanted to hear what that brat had to say. Trump, for many but not all people, is the leader we never wanted, who embarrasses us on the global stage and makes brash statements that are sexist, racist, and antagonistic. He does not align with our values and is moving the country in a direction that many of us strongly disagree with. These messengers are flawed. But that does not mean their message is equally flawed. We know that Joseph's dreams turned out to be true, and he accurately predicted the future. He foresaw in his dreams that he would rise to power over his brothers, which he did, and that there would be famine across the land, which there was. But Joseph's brothers didn't know that until it was too late. Surely, neither Joseph's dreams or Trump's proclamation live in a vacuum. There are larger ramifications for both messages. For sure, the context that a message lives in is important, but it does not necessarily negate the truth of what is being said. Yes, Joseph was not well liked, and it didn't help his brothers, and he didn't help his brothers daily in the field, so the idea of him rising to power above any of them felt arrogant. And yes, he was a younger brother who should have been subordinate. Yes, Joseph came to power in a manner that allowed him to leapfrog over others who may have been more deserving. But his dreams were still true. Yes, there are geopolitical ramifications for moving the United States Embassy to Jerusalem. Yes, there are scary and real reasons against making the statement that Jerusalem is the capital of Israel. Yes, this could have serious ramification on a seemingly stalled peace process. But the message itself still deserves our unbiased attention and some real debate. Sometimes we do need to remove the messenger. The messenger can be distracting and take away from the importance of the message itself, which needs our focus and attention. We need to hear the words clearly and make a decision based solely on the content and not be swayed by the person or people who are articulating it. Our tradition brings us a long line of flawed messengers: Moses, Saul, David, Jonah, Hosea, and the list goes on. These messengers and leaders are not without hypocrisy or challenges that make their message difficult to hear. But we still need to hear it. We need to judge the message on its own merits, not always be so concerned with the person delivering it and whether we like them or not. Over the next few weeks, as we continue reading the saga of Joseph and his brothers, many of us, if not all of us, will feel that the brothers get what they deserve in the end for not being nice to Joseph. We will not be sad that they go through distress or heartbreak because we know they did it to Joseph first. We think, if only they had been nicer to him and listened, they wouldn't be in this situation now. They didn't like the messenger, so they wouldn't hear the message, and thus ended up dealing with the consequences. Will we be as arrogant as Joseph's brothers? Will we debate the message itself or refuse to because we don't like the messenger? Can we think about their words and their meaning regardless of who shares them with us? The question isn't whether or not you like the messenger or agree with anything else he has said or done in the past year. The question is whether or not you believe that Jerusalem is the capital of Israel, and whether you believe that our embassy should be there.